Welcome to Community Roundtable. I'm Nick Burns from the Salt Lake Community College Division of Communication and Performing Arts. And today on the show, we'll talk about the Salt Lake Community College Prison Education Program. This is a program that helps people inside the state prison take classes and work toward earning their college degree. Also on the show, we'll discuss reintegration. What about education after prison? Joining us on Community Roundtable from Salt Lake Community College, Gina Alfred. She is the co-chair of the Utah Reintegration Project. And also joining us, David Bokovoy. He is the director of the Prison Education Program here at the college. Welcome.
Thank you.
To you both. Gina, I will start with you. The Utah Reintegration Project. You work for Student Services.
Yes.
You also do this integration work, reintegration, I should say. How did you come to this?
Last year, actually, they were having during the week of Push Out in October, which is, being against children and students being incarcerated. They were having a panel, and I went to that panel and heard some things that I was like, oh, that's not cool, and found out how hard it was for those that were formerly incarcerated to reintegrate, and just decided I wanted to be part of.
So nationally and within the state, we've had a lot of discussion around criminal justice reform from the White House on down through the House and the Senate and here in the state. But I don't ever see much or come across much that has anything to do with after you're out, with reintegration. So are we, as a college, sort of ahead of the curve on that?
I believe we are. This program started last year out of the Chief Diversity Officer office, which is under the president of the college office. And they saw the need because we actually have classes, which David will talk about, that are being taught in the prison. And so it's like, okay, well, once they get out of prison, then how do we reacclimate into society, whether it's through education or employment skills?
So, David Bokovoy, I want to bring you in, Director of the Prison Education Program. You have kind of a circuitous route to your job.
I do. I taught at the University of Utah and then at Utah State University, and while I was there, I was approached by a friend here at the college involved with prison education, Marianne McKnight, and she helped me get involved. I stepped in then as the temporary director for a year, having never stepped foot in a prison before and not knowing what it would be like.
Interesting.
And then as of last year, became the permanent director.
So fair to say you're a convert in a...
Absolutely. It's been an extraordinary experience to work with these men and women who really want to use education to become better human beings.
And something that I think maybe is a little unique about the Salt Lake Community College Prison Education Program is our focus, your focus in terms of faculty and classes is sort of more on the general education side rather than teaching, say, folks how to be a baker or a mechanic. So what's with that particular aim and focus? Excellent.
We received a mandate from the Utah State Legislature to offer general education courses in the prison.
Okay.
And we're sometimes asked that question. It's a very good one. Why not just offer these men and women trade skills that they can use to immediately pick up a job? But the answer to that is that we're not just trying to give a job, although that's very important. We want to help these men and women change the way that they see themselves and society. And that happens through general education, through taking courses in the physical sciences and in the humanities, and it changes the way that they see themselves. So it's a
Can we track this in terms of recidivism? Because I understand Utah's sadly kind of high on the number of people who end up back in prison.
We are. Unfortunately, it's not a happy story to tell, but approximately 50% of incarcerated men and women will return at some point after they've been released and do prison time once again. That's the national average.
About half.
About half.
Okay.
We in the state of Utah are much worse than that. We're at about 70%, which makes us the highest, or the worst, if you will, nationwide. We have more men and women returning to prison after they've served time than any other state in the union.
And I go out on a limb here, we can track that people who come out of prison with education are less likely to go back. I mean, this seems like it ought to be saving everybody money as well as societal ills.
Absolutely. In fact, what is so ironic is that I mentioned it's about 70% recidivism rate for the state of Utah. Well, studies have shown that approximately 68% of the incarcerated population who earn a degree in higher education while they're in prison will not return to prison. So it definitely saves taxpayers money in the long term. And aside from that, as you were hinting at in your question, about 90% of the incarcerated prisoners in the state of Utah will eventually return to mainstream society. They become our neighbors, our friends, our grocers, our mechanics. These are men and women we will interact with on a regular basis. So providing them with education that helps them to change the way that they see themselves in society benefits us all in the long term, not just financially, but socially.
Good point. So Gina, in terms of reintegration, helping folks out of prison, stay in school, get in school, whatever it might be, any kinds of pushback? I mean, there are people out there who kind of have a lock 'em up, throw away the key mentality when it comes to people who've broken the law.
Right.
Does the college have any work to do to sort of re-educate the whole entire community about what we can do?
Well, good question. I think the college is doing a great job sticking to the model of being a transformative institution for the community. So internally, there's no pushback. But obviously, because prisons, it's a money machine, so to speak, and so the more you put in, the more money you get out. So that would be the pushback that we would push back against, as far as just getting the word out, saying we need to help to reintegrate into society to prevent that recidivism rate.
Well, I mean, essentially, I'd argue it's an equity issue, right? These
Well,
are
for
folks
sure.
coming to Salt Lake Community College like any other student
For
with
sure.
a GED or a high school degree, but they're coming from a very unique, different place than
Right.
most other students.
They are,
Yeah.
but there is no pushback from my understanding or in my experience, where those that are serving on the committee are involved. There is no pushback from us.
No, I was meaning more like other citizens around the state of Utah pushing back against the legislature, but yet the legislature has funded this program, so clearly the state sees the
Is on
benefit.
board, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
So, David, I'm curious, and again, as someone involved in education myself, how's this work? I mean, you can't give every student a laptop in the prison and say, here's your Wi-Fi access. So how do you physically offer college classes in an environment like a prison? How do we do that?
Boy, it's a great question, and it's definitely a challenge. One of the things that our team does is we do everything by hand. So we go into the prison, sit down with each of our students, give them slips of paper where they will, choose their classes, and we give them academic advisement. But it's all done by hand. It's quite the process. But you're right. The men and women that are there do not have access to the internet, or most of them even to computers, so they will write their papers by hand. But we have developed a very unique system for instruction through Salt Lake Community College, and I'm not sure how many other programs are doing this. It's a hybrid experience for the student.
How so?
Well,
What do you mean?
the courses are designed to be face-to-face encounters with instructors from Salt Lake Community College. Unfortunately, however, there are many times when students physically cannot come to class because there will be a lockdown. Violence may have erupted, and so all of the prisoners are kept in their cells. There may have been some contraband that has been discovered, so our teachers will show up and there won't be a class to teach. So it's essential for us to retain academic integrity. We are not running a watered-down version of college in the prison. Our program is every bit as rigorous and academically demanding as what transpires on other campuses throughout the valley. So to address that need, each of our instructors prepares for the possibility of those lockdowns by giving additional assignments and chapters to read, and designs the course in such a way to address the loss of class time on those occasions.
If something like that happened. It's also my understanding that the students who can avail themselves of the prison program, that's not just necessarily anybody. It's sort of for those who are motivated enough to follow the rules. You can't be in a fight and be in college, let's say, right? I mean, how does the prison make those decisions, or the college? How's that work?
Well, the way that works is that the prisoners are kept very busy throughout the day through working in their jobs and receiving programming and addiction recovery training and things like this. But so our courses are run at night, and what that means is that the only men and women that physically can leave their cells and go participate in the program are those who have the highest level of privilege. Indeed, those who are keeping the rules and staying out of fights.
So it's a
and
huge
conflicts.
motivator.
It is, and that's
You have to want this.
Absolutely, and it's one of the things that is I've seen the Department of Corrections recognize. Because rightfully so, their primary emphasis is on security. Security for the inmates themselves, security for the staff, for the officers involved.
For our professors, yeah.
Absolutely, it's very important. And what they've seen is that because it provides that incentive, it changes the culture there at the prison, and it helps them with that need for security.
So Gina, when it comes to reintegration and helping folks once they're out of prison, is the college's work focused only on those students who come through our program, or could it be anybody out of prison who wants to come to Salt Lake Community?
It can be anyone out of prison.
Okay.
If they want to come to Salt Lake Community College to continue their education, or if they just want to become part of the support group that we have to help them reacclimate into society. So you don't have to necessarily have been a previous student of Salt Lake Community College.
Tell me about this support group.
So we meet the first and third Thursday of each month at 7 p.m. at our South City camp. Oh, here at this campus.
Yeah, okay.
In the alumni room, and we have other individuals from outside the walls of Salt Lake Community College that are part of the community that come, and we we write letters to inmates, we write birthday cards to inmates. For those that are out, we work with them regarding job skills, networking, talk about housing. We discussed last week, funding for going back to school once you're out, and how that works and what that looks like. So,
I mean, that's a cohort model that seems to be a successful model for all kinds of college students.
absolutely,
Yeah.
it is. Yes.
So we only got a minute or two left, and so David, I'll go back to you. Numbers, how many people are we educating? How many are we graduating? What's going on the ground, so to speak?
So we began in 2017 with about 40 students. Since that time period, we have admitted approximately 630 students inside the prison as Salt Lake Community College students. Now, they don't all take courses every semester because some of them have been paroled or perhaps transferred to other facilities. We average at about 250 students right now in classes each semester. And one of the things we emphasize to them is that Salt Lake Community College is the largest institution of higher education in the state. And we have campuses all over the valley, and we here see the prison as one of our campuses. Mm-hmm. And we will have our first graduates at the end of spring semester.
Oh, wow.
Yes, about 18 students we anticipate will finish their certificates of general education or their associate degrees.
And are you going to do a little graduation ceremony
Absolutely.
inside the prison?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's great.
Oh,
Very exciting.
I don't know if you can have a camera, but get pictures.
Yeah.
So we're about out of time, so I want to thank you both. But real quickly, last 30 seconds, Gina, what's next for reintegration for helping folks?
One thing that we actually have coming up will be next week, Thursday. Members from the exonerated Central Park 5 will be here, and so we've collaborated with the Black Student Union of Salt Lake Community College and the Chief Diversity Office to bring them. So it's open to the public and free. And
Very
they will
good.
actually speak about their experience and their transition from being out to reintegrating into society.
And real quickly, 20 seconds, what should we look forward to inside the prison for training and education?
We hope to have Pell Grant restored, which will bring in more opportunities financially for our program to expand into other facilities and offer more classes for students.
So Pell Grants, I know we just moved towards health care for folks before they get out, and now Pell Grants would be fantastic.
It certainly would.
Thank
so
you.
we're hopeful for that.
Great. David Bokovoy, Director of the Prison Education Program, Gina Alfred, Co-Chair, Utah Reintegration Project here at Salt Lake Community College. Thank you for joining us on Community Roundtable. If you'd like more information about all Salt Lake Community College academic and community programs, for student resources, upcoming events, and more, go to slcc.edu. That's slcc.edu. We'll see you next time on Community Roundtable. I'm Nick Burns.